Yo, yo! Welcome back to Sistah Punk Studios. Like and subscribe, leave a comment, and check out my other anime reviews if you like what you see. I'm hyped to talk about an anime that's an underrated, silent but deadly heavy hitter. Remember that show I told y'all about a couple months ago? You know, the show with the guy who has a gun for a head? Seriously. So if you were sleeping on it, it's time to check out No Guns Life. This anime is based on a manga by Tasuku Kurasama. A dystopian noir is the backdrop for our gritty, hard-boiled character, Juzo. In the near future, many humans have opted into mechanical surgeries and bodily upgrades to become human cyborgs. After a great war that left many people injured, hungry, and looking for work, having a robotic arm or leg became a necessary in order to survive, and in order to work beyond your human capabilities. However, a great many of these operations were performed on former soldiers, who began to resort to crime as society began to exclude and discriminate against those who have mechanical upgrades. Even though it's these people who make up the underclass that keeps the country going, and many are the very soldiers who are cruelly experimented on in order to become human weapons for civilization. Juzo Inui is a gun-headed mercenary who specializes in solving problems caused mostly by cyborgs just like himself. However, Juzo's life took a turn when a renegade cyborg breaks into his office, pleading for him to protect a young boy named Tetsuro, who has escaped from a corporate lab that was experimenting on his body and soul. He was used as a tool in order to implant technology into his body, in order to control other cyborgs with his mind, and be used for assassinations and espionage. Juzo is already aware that this kid is involved in some high-level political and technological corruption that makes him a target for anti-cyborg organizations. But Juzo still takes Tetsuro's request for protection and the destruction of the institution where others are being experimented on and tortured. Something very similar to what Juzo experienced during the war as a gun slave unit. Juzo isn't just a hard-to-beat super weapon with a trigger on his head and explosive revolver fist. As a character, he feels guilt for the deeds that he did during the war, and how capitalist greed has affected society in its aftermath. Juzo feels betrayed by his country for using him, dehumanizing him and discarding him, and continuing to do so by exploiting abandoned children and those left in poverty and desperation. This show makes a not-so-subtle point to display the corruption that has decayed this dystopian world. From the violent gangs in the alleyways preying on the weak, to big business vultures muddying the laws, to conduct inhumane experiments in order to create new human weapons, and continue a profitable war that is ravaging millions of lives, leaving vicious cults of ex-soldiers scarred by the calamities of war, and still hungering for battle, power, and destruction. Juzo gets by in this world working towards redemption from the very violence that created him under the guise of a humble detective. But the structures that perpetuate this violence press on his conscience. As he cares for Tetsuro and fights off officers and henchmen trying to capture and silence him, Juzo sees how this kid is filled with vengeance for what has been done to him, as well as other children who have been already destroyed through these terrible experiments. Juzo is urged to do more than just clean up the mess. He follows the trails of blood to destroy this worldly evil that connects deeply into his regrettable past, where he betrayed his comrades and his humanity. Now, the remains of soldiers of war and corrupt organizations have extended their influence over every institution that controls society. Juzo, once again, is the secret weapon, but this time fighting against the system and fighting for himself as the person that he's become after he lost his original body and identity. And watching him change is frustrating and painful, not only because of his cold, stoic exterior that acts as an emotional barrier, but also because Juzo knows that he's holding back from doing something for himself that he was exploited for doing for others. To pull his own trigger and unleash the dense, dark monstrosity inside him that has become his reality and his strength for his own sake, and to confront the memories and remnants of his fellow soldiers, and the parts of him that they reflected and still tried to nurture in this harsh, merciless battle. Even Juzo's current enemy, Seven, is a reflection of the conflict within himself. He's a number before he has a name. His naivete, his dependencies, his overwhelming power. But as Juzo faces these arch enemies, he doesn't fight them as a weapon. He fights them like a man with a gun for a head. That is indeed the uniqueness of No Guns Life. Its absurdity never overshadows its depth. It's dripping with macho and diesel punk grit, but never dumbs down the plot. It still takes the time to be an emotional, critical, and addictive detective noir. Check out No Guns Life now and stay tuned for its upcoming seasons. If you want more anime reviews and recommendations, like and subscribe for a new video every week. Thanks for watching. Peace.